what you all been waiting for, ain't it?
Do you know how mangaka or anyone who makes manga or anything of the sort uses their own histories, cultures, and even religions in their stories? Well, you can find that in many different parts of literature throughout the world. For instance, the Norse gods are mentioned heavily in American comics and in manga, as well as other sources of literature. You can find that they talk about Taoism and Buddhism in their literature, and it might get past a few, but they touch heavily on Christianity as well. Christianity is the leading religion in all of the world, second to none, and though there are many branches of Christianity, the most popular branch is Catholicism. In today's video, I'll be discussing how religion affects literature and video games in the modern day. Alright, so the first manga I'm going to talk about is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I know that's kind of strange. If you haven't watched it or just don't know what it is, you'd ask me, what does JoJo's have to do with Christianity? And it's actually quite a lot. Its author Hirohiko Araki has quite a bit of Christian influence within his series. JoJo's is a 9-part series. Some parts have more Christian influence than others, but I'm going to specifically talk about part 7, Steel Ball Run. It's highly favored among other JoJo fans. Now, I will warn you, because some of you don't like to listen, but this video has spoilers for multiple different series. I'm going to say it again. This video has spoilers for multiple different series. I'll say it one last time, just to get everybody's attention. This video contains spoilers for multiple different series. Enjoy. I'm going to try my hardest not to make this a plot summary. This is the third time I've read Steel Ball Run, and I'm not reading it again in order to grab every single image under the sun. The main character's name is Johnny Joestar, and he meets a man named Gyro Zapelli. The story takes place in America in the year 1890, and Johnny enters a race from California to New York in order to learn how the spin works. To explain this really quickly, Gyro comes from a family line where they have the ability to spin things. I didn't mention it before, but Johnny is a cripple, and when he touched Gyro's spinning steel balls, he was able to stand for a second. Little do they know, this Steel Ball Run race has a secret motive and is manufactured by the President of the United States in order to find the corpse parts of Jesus Christ, which were buried. And I want to take note of that difference here. So after Jesus was crucified, he was placed in a tomb, resurrected, and rose back to heaven. In JoJo's, this isn't what happened. There was another man named Joseph of Arimathea, and he buried Jesus after his crucifixion, to which Jesus rose from, but then decided to go east. Jesus created a map for Joseph, which is a map of America with 9 marks on it. He then built a ship and went to America and lived with the Native Americans there for the rest of his life. His death here led to the individual parts of his corpse being spread around America. This leads to another character being Funny Valentine, who is yet to be president, finding the heart of Jesus, leading to him wanting to secure prosperity for the country, so he orchestrated the Steel Ball Run race to find the other corpse part, with the race's route aligning with the 9 marks on the map. Alright, I wanted to keep this part of the video a lot quicker. I didn't want it to be a plot summary. While I basically did just tell you the plot of part 7, I wanted to keep it way quicker. Alright, next I'm going to talk about exorcism, or the process of exorcising a demon, which is literally just the process of casting out demons from the body using holy water, phrases, and crosses. A lot of you are probably familiar with the "power of Christ compels you" phrase due to movies and other media, but I'm specifically going to talk about Exorcist manga, which is manga where the same process is present, although it's more fantasy-like. This concept is used a lot in manga and other stories, and while it is over, I would say it's still pretty new. Jujutsu Kaisen is an exorcist manga. In it, there are cursed spirits. They are made up of residual negative emotions and energy from society, and there are also jujutsu sorcerers who can utilize cursed energy to exorcise these cursed spirits. There are several other series just like this. Jujutsu Kaisen even inspired other authors just as it was ending. One series I do want to talk about is called Blue Exorcist, where the main character is literally the son of Satan, and there's an exorcist school that he goes to. And in this manga, exorcist practices are a little closer to what they are in this world. They use phrases and crosses, holy water, and they even use pewter staves as weapons. And on the more fanciful side of things, they have magic swords and they create contracts with demons, which they must hold dominance over or the contract isn't valid. I haven't read much of Blue Exorcist, but Reno Gomorrah wants to be an exorcist so he can kill his father. A very common plot I see within most manga and stories is a corrupt church or priest, and I can't even be mad because this is something that happens quite a lot in real life. A priest will let themselves be consumed by greed, pride, and delusion and start to believe that all their wrongdoings are in the name of God. Now, this is why I mentioned video games all the way at the start, as I'm going to be talking about a still somewhat new game called Metaphor ReFantazio. Now, like I said before, this video contains spoilers for this game. Alright, without making this a summary, Catholicism is in this game and it's called Sanctism, and there's a pope in this world wrote two called Sanctifex Forden. This religion is pretty similar as it worships only one god, however, there is no mention of Jesus. Forden tricks the king into declaring it, making it a part of the crown theocracy. Forden even orders a sanctess to assassinate the prince, so when the king dies, he can become the king. Very typical evil priest plot type of thing, you know, very typical. But this is why I mentioned part 6 of JoJo's, as its main villain is a priest named Enrico Pucci. Pucci's role as a priest is actually a ruse, and religious elements aren't heavily as prominent, but Pucci's main goal throughout part 6 was following in the footsteps of a previous villain named Dio, who created a plot to reach heaven and create a stand that could accelerate time. I bring up Pucci as Pucci does not actively use God to justify his wrongdoings. Pucci views his actions as the greater good, and nothing he does during the story is selfish, like how the evil priest plot goes. Through this time acceleration, people alive during it would receive knowledge of their past lives and would learn their fate and learn to accept destiny. Time acceleration will create a heaven for those living without the uncertainty of their future, creating a peace among people. Alright, so this is like the second half of the video. Shout out to my older brother because he helped write the second half. So yeah, Daredevil is Catholic. It's funny because his name is literally that of the devil, and he calls himself the guardian devil. It's also a good piece of writing because he is blind, and a huge saying in the Christian faith is to walk by faith, not by sight. Since he is blind, there's nothing but faith for him to walk by.
It's been said within the comics that his gift, though his name is a little backhanded, was a gift from God so he can walk by faith and not by sight. He also embodied the verse that God did not give us the spirit of fear, he is called the man without fear, but the power of love and a sound mind. In his comic, you'll hear a lot of inner dialogue as well, and you can tell that he is more sane and sound mind than a little bit. He battles not only with the scum and evil of the world and his city, but he also battles more with himself as well, and this is what the comic is about more than anything else. He's a more gritty and darker hero, so he does a lot of damage, and he even has killed in the past, but he's also very much Catholic and leans into his religion, so you'll see a lot of times that he'll be in the middle of confession, trying to confess his sins while also not trying to give up his identity. It hurts him to hurt other people, but he understands. He must be this way, not only to protect himself, but to protect others as well. It's a deep and great story of a man versus himself, which incidentally is everybody's battle when it comes to faith, battling one's own flesh to therefore be closer and walk with God. Other parts of American literature and comics that you'll see us using are different cultures' religions, like when you see and hear about heroes like Thor, who is a part of Norse mythology. Now, Norse mythology is not exactly a part of American history, but it's very deeply rooted in European culture and history, and we all know how that goes and the influence of America. So that being said, it explains a lot of how the Asgardians came to be worshipped as gods when they were in their huge battle against the frost giants and came to Earth, and so on and so forth. You also see a lot of Greek mythology and a lot of different places as well, like the story of Hercules being reiterated in the Disney movie, and even how Thor and Hercules have fought each other multiple times within comics and things like that as well. Of course, it always depends on the writer, and which dictates who actually wins those fights, but in the end, it is a fact. Then we can even switch over from Marvel to DC Comics, and we can look at the entirety of the Justice League. They use more of Greek mythology than Norse mythology, or other things, such as it has been openly suggested that the entire original Justice League are nothing more than a modern-day version of the Greek pantheon. And of course, there's Wonder Woman herself, who was an Amazonian princess and warrior, and she's openly says in the classic Justice League cartoon and comics for Hera, the queen of the gods, to help her in a lot of her endeavors when she goes through their harder times, beseeching her god to intervene. Then there are villains such as Ares, the Greek god of war, that are in the comics themselves. Of course, all of this now is considered mythology, just as great stories of old that teach many lessons and are very entertaining, but in the end, or should I say in the beginning, they were true religions, and people actually worship these ideals. There are also other bits and pieces of religion scattered across American literature and comics, such as the Black Panther. They worship a god named Bast, who is a panther god and bestows the great powers of the Black Panther upon the people who are worthy. Then there's Nightcrawler, one of the X-Men, who is very religious as well, and a Catholic. And in the 21st century Fox movie X2, you will see Nightcrawler praying a lot and branding his own skin out of his face to punish himself due to his sins. There's also Kitty Pryde, the Shadow Cat, who's an X-Man as well, and she is Jewish openly within the comics, and she used her powers along with her faith to encourage and inspire others, people around her, to be who they really are. Of course, there's Miss Marvel as well, who is of the Islamic and Muslim background and religion. She's very open and honest about it as well. Simply in conclusion, showing that these characters in literature are also dealing with the same things that we are within our own personal day-to-day lives is a way for us to connect not only with what we are reading, but with each other. It openly shows us that it is okay for you to be any and all you want to be, as long as you are true and good in the end.
If you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. And there's something I want you to always remember.
Fear God, love Jesus.
Peace.
Peace.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.